Hello and welcome back to Creative Pet Keeping. My name is Kasha, I am your host, and today I am going to be continuing the Betta tank review and unboxing series. We're going to check out another tank from the Wonder Factory. We recently checked out their spinning tank and now we're going to check out their smart tank. This is really interesting because I've never had a smart aquarium or tried it before, so this is a brand new territory that I am diving into, and we will see if this is easy to assemble, easy to use and understand, and most important of all, if this is good for betta fish. So without further ado, let's get started. When you open the box, you are greeted with a couple things, but it's not really much. You first get the instruction manual, then you get the little plug, the power plug that you need, as well as some informational packets, and you will also get a one-page startup guide, which we'll take a closer look at. Hello, this is Kasha from the future, filming on my phone. I forgot to show you guys this little sheet in depth so we can take a closer look at it, and I actually found a typo on here, as well as a tiny nitpicky thing when they put smart aquarium, that the aquarium got cut off in a weird way, but that's not the important part. So here we have the fish keeping preparation, and I think this is fine, and then how to set up. But in the part about acclimating fish, which is right here, part 1, and that's continued on the other side, it says after overheating, pour the water from the fish tank into the packaging bag. And put the fish into the tank after 20 minutes. So I think they meant acclimating instead of overheating, so I found a typo. Also, I found this a little confusing when I turned the side over, that this was part 1 of 4, and this was part 2 of 4. I wish there was like a continued thing, so it would say at the top, adding fish, like it would repeat right here. I feel like that would be a little easier and less confusing. So that's sort of what I noticed in here. So back to the unboxing, the last part was the drain pipe, but I'm not really going to be using that one, so I kind of didn't really focus on it. So after that, I decided to take out the tank. Now the tank itself is not heavy at all. It was very easy for me to lift the box, but I was really paranoid that if I picked it up like the straight way up, that I would drop it. So as you can see, what I did is I put it on its side and then gently removed it that way. Just because I'm extra paranoid, I'm a little clumsy, and I just thought that would be the safest thing to do. So let's take a look at the different pieces. So once I took off the little kind of bracket that's in the back, you can see the filtration, and they have 2 types of filtration as well as the pump. And then you also have some extra cables back here that we need to connect. But other than that, it's really simple. So we have the mechanical filtration right over here. Very easy to understand, kind of easy to take out. Kind of gives me like a little futuristic vibe, like I'm in a future movie, and these are cool little Star Wars like things from a Star Wars ship. But this is your chemical filtration pod. Then we have a space in the middle that I forgot to mention for the heater, and then right here that I took out is the pump itself. So overall, I think it's very easy because you don't really have to assemble anything. It comes pre-assembled, so honestly, it doesn't get easier than that. It does also come with an automatic feeder, but I'm probably not going to use that because I like to feed my fish. But the next thing is I just took out the plug, because that is really the only extra external feature that you get, that you have to install. Everything is just put together. There's really nothing for me to do. Usually I have to assemble things, but here I just had to figure out the plugs. Before we turn it on though, I did want to take a look at the lid because I like how easy it is. It's pretty sturdy and simple. You've got a little user guide that you can pause and read over here if you would like to, but I'm going to skip over it. It also has little labels for all your buttons that if you want, you can keep that sticker or you can take it off. And this is what the light looks like underneath. It is a very simple light, but it's supposed to work to be able to grow aquarium plants, so that's really nice. The automatic feeder itself, I've never really used automatic feeders before, so I don't really have a comparison. It's just easy to take on and off, but I was a little concerned about the hole, and I wish there was an ability to close the gap in case you didn't want to use the automatic feeder. I just think that would be like a really nice option. Before we plug it in, I did want to do a test fill so we can see the water flow, and I always fill up a tank first before I plug it in, even if this tank doesn't turn on unless you turn on the power button. That's just like a habit that I've developed just out of caution. And there are a minimum and maximum fill line on both sides of the tank, but when I was filming it, I didn't know how to change the settings on my camera to make it more visible. It just wasn't showing up on the camera, but I could physically see it. And I think it's great that it's on both sides, but I think it would be a little more helpful maybe one of the sides or both sides had a temporary sticker that you can just take off that helps you see the max and minimum line, just if you are a beginner fish keeper and might have missed it, because I think it might be a little too easy to overfill the tank, and it might be tempting to fill it up all the way to the top. You might confuse that intake and think that it has to be covered all the way. That's an easy mistake a beginner can make, so that's something I think might be a helpful little addition. The only assembly that you have to do for this tank is just connect the cables. That is just really all that you need to assemble, which I think is nice and easy, although it took me a sec to kind of figure out how to connect the cables, because at first I wasn't sure because they all look the same, but then once I looked inside I saw that they have different amounts of prongs, which I will give you a closer look at that. So there's like 5 holes right here, and then this one has 5 prongs inside, so you know that these two connect because 5 goes into the 5, and then this one has 2, and then the power cable has 2 as well. So it's not that hard to figure out. The only thing that I struggled with a little bit is attaching them securely and properly, and I had to attach it and then reattach it and attach it again and try it a couple times. I think it's maybe a kasha problem. I don't know if that's necessarily a tank problem. I'm just sometimes a little, like, I don't know, just not the brightest light bulb in the lamp. I don't know if that's a phrase that makes sense, but I decided to include my little struggles, but I think I made sure that it was securely connected. After that, I put the lid up, and it did kind of pop out the back, so I had to kind of pop the back panel back in, and then it was pretty easy to prop the lid upwards on the little like stand that it has. I don't know how to describe it, the hinges, but that is really nice and convenient to have because I want it to be ready to go before I plug it in. So once I plugged it in, it started right away, and this is why I always put water in before I start anything, because I'm always, worried. I don't want the filter to run on nothing. So there it goes. There's the water pouring out, and let's take a closer look at some of the features now that it is plugged in. The first thing that I kind of by accident triggered was I by accident pressed the light when I was putting the lid down, and I realized the light button is in the corner. So you get to see how it looks illuminated. You also see the temperature on the side as well as some of the settings that illuminate. So let's take a closer look at some of the buttons. So you have the temperature settings, which luckily come in Fahrenheit now. Originally you can get it in Celsius, which is still an option. You can connect it to the Wi-Fi, you can adjust the water pump, feeding schedule, you have a child lock on there, and I believe that if the physical filtration or biological filtration is plugged up, then it might light up and kind of remind you and let you know, which is really, really nice. Now I did press the feeding button and right away the feeder was working, so that was super fun to see. And then it was time to play with the pump settings, so you can adjust the flow with a touch of a button, and there are 3 flow rates that you can see, and that is really good. I feel like when you have a Betta tank, you need to be able to adjust the flow, and oftentimes we try to do it by manually kind of modding the tanks, but here you don't have to do that. It also comes with many different light settings, and even though you can change them on the aquarium itself, you can also adjust them and further adjust settings in the app, which is really, really cool. But it was still fun to kind of go through them. They all have a corresponding number, so you can keep track of them. I also very quickly realized why the child lock is going to be very, very important, especially for me, because I have this little critter, Star, who is going to be curious and going to want to check everything out and kind of walk all over this tank. So she's going to press all of the buttons because she's still a kitten and she's super curious. So for me to be able to lock this tank and, you know, prevent her from changing my settings because she's a very curious girl, it's really, really good feature to have. I also think it's good that this can support her weight. She's not really that heavy, she's only 6 months old, but it was kind of good to test her going on there, and she kind of was very curious and checking out the tank. So I feel like not only is this for the most part initially Betta approved, but this is also cat approved. And let me know down in the comments below if you think Starfire was a very good assistant in demonstrating all the features of this tank. Lastly, I want to show you the app. Now, I didn't do an in-depth review of the app. It was very interesting, easy to use. There were quite a couple updates to do before I could get started, but there are so many features and different things on here that I feel like this could be a separate video of just the features. This was so fun and so cool, and there are so many things that you can customize with this tank through this app that it blew my mind. It was super exciting. I've never got to customize and mess around with so much on a tank, so I think this is so cool, and I can monitor my tank on my phone. So thank you for watching my video. My initial impression is I really like this tank. I think all the smart features are really nifty, and they're also really, really helpful. I like how the design makes it really easy to assemble. There's almost really nothing to do, and it seems to be pretty well made. So my initial impression, now I haven't really tested it by setting up Escape and putting fish in it, but my initial impression is that I really, really like this tank. So in the future, I will provide you with an update where I will set up this tank and test this for a while just to see long-term how it holds up. But initially, I think it's really cool. I like how easy it is. It's really nifty. It's a lot of fun. And if that is something you are interested in, I definitely recommend that you check out this tank.